Hey, welcome back to another episode of Open Shutter. It is Saturday, so it's Saturday edition, which is totally cool. And have the pleasure of welcoming Devon Wood to the program. He is in Hudson Valley, New York. So if you're in Hudson Valley watching right now, shout out to you guys, or anywhere in the States for that matter. If you're coming from Devon's side and you don't know exactly what this show is about, try to do this show as much as possible and try to get just people that make stuff and do things and try to get them on and talk about their journey and what we do and why we do it and where we want to go with it. So if you're out there making something and want to come on, feel free to message Open Shutter YouTube on Instagram and we can definitely chat about it. And yeah, man, thanks, Devon, for taking the time. For the people that don't know, Devon and I met, I don't know, I guess a couple of years ago during the pandemic. I had this idea of making this crazy kind of like documentary style video of like bringing all these YouTubers around the world together to like just talk about why exactly we're on YouTube. And Devon was one of the dudes that was in that thing. So that's exactly how we met. So it feels like yesterday and like a million years ago, Devon. So good to see you again. And yeah, man, for the people that don't know who you are, maybe a quick intro about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's weird because I always say that to people how something feels like so long ago and also not that long ago at the same time.
It's a
It's
weird
a
thing,
weird
man.
thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am a photographer and filmmaker, and I got into all of this actually about a decade ago now, which also seems
Decade.
crazy, but with just
Yes.
my phone and Instagram, and I was making
Yep.
these like Instagram skits. I actually was on Instagram before video was even on Instagram, and then as soon as video came to
Uh,
Instagram, I started making skits and stuff, and then it kind of took off. And then November 2019, I was like, you know what, I want to make YouTube videos, so let me go buy
mm.
a camera, not knowing a damn thing about cameras, and I went and
Yep.
got a Best Buy credit card and
Love it.
bought a Sony A6400. So that was my first
Yep.
mirrorless camera. I've since converted to Canon, but that's another story. But
Shout out.
so basically got into it through that, and then somehow met a bunch of really talented people who taught me a lot of things, and now here I am.
It's that amazing how it all kind of happens, just like the growth of like the journey when you don't even know anything about anything, you just kind of like start, right? Like,
Yeah, it's funny
you know.
because actually it was February of 2020. I was on a
Yeah.
short film set with a production company who I've gotten really close with now, who I've developed some really great relationships with. And at that time, I didn't even know what ISO was. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
holding, and that was when I upgraded to my A7C.
Yeah.
Finally getting into full frame, and I'm like, I'm like moving environments, and I'm like, why the hell is it getting so much stuff? And then I asked, I was
Yeah.
like, dude, why is my camera doing this? And he was like, oh, you're in auto ISO, and I was like,
Ah.
and so that was when I learned about ISO.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of how like that's a good way to learn, just kind of like diving in sometimes and just kind of like getting like the real life experience, I think sometimes. Because I think
Yeah.
like you can watch all like the tutorials and everything online, but until you're actually like in the field doing it, like you don't really know how to react to things. It's kind of like driving a car. Until you're actually driving the car, you don't know how to really drive the car.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the more that you can put yourself into like real life situations, I think just the better like you're able to like handle things, right? So
Yeah, and I think it's cool because I'm like, I was not one of these people who's, like as a kid, I knew I wanted to be a photographer, a filmmaker, or I didn't
yeah,
go to school for anything like that. But
yeah,
it's really cool. And the thing that I kind of try to preach to people is that, at least with this stuff in particular, it seems like the community around it is so supportive and helpful and
yeah,
collaborative that it's like even somebody like me who never picked up a camera before, just a little over 3.5 years ago, can somehow end
yeah,
up where I am. And I'm like, that's when the imposter syndrome starts to hit. But
yeah. Of
that's another
course.
all other thing.
Yeah, we were just talking about that offline about like going through slumps and going through like things like imposter syndrome. It's like, we're just saying offline, like it's going to happen to everyone at some point. Like you're not going to avoid like the creative slump or the creative burnout or like the imposter syndrome. So, just curious how you yourself are kind of push like through those things.
Well, it's funny because I'm like, I feel like I've hit these slumps a lot,
Yeah.
but particularly the last like month or so, I've been just in a slump, not only creatively but also just like with my mental health and stuff. And I
Hmm.
think what I sorely underestimated was how valuable this type of stuff is for
Yeah.
that reason.
Hmm.
And one of the big challenges for me is that about a year ago, my business partner and I, we officially LLC'd, and it's been great, and we've grown a lot. We moved into a bigger studio space back in April, so that's really great. But the thing is, I've been just so busy with work and life and the business that the last couple months, the only time I was picking up my camera was for work, and I started to resent that, and it started
Yeah.
not enjoyable. Even if the work was fun, it's still
Mhm.
work, And they always say, like,
Yeah.
if you want to kill your passion, turn it into a
It's
career. And even though
true.
it's not full time, I'm like, oh man. So it
Yeah.
was kind
Yeah.
of, it was actually only about a week ago that I finally picked my camera back up and was like, I'm gonna just go record myself doing something, because I haven't done that in months.
Yeah.
And luckily, I'm hopping back on it, and this right here is even a part of it. So that was why I reached out
Yeah.
to you, because I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
I always see
Devin
the
asked,
stuff.
can I come on? I'm like, of course you can come on, bro. I would
Yeah,
love to have
so
you
it was
come on.
perfect timing.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point that you made. Like, I think people have this like a delusion or illusion that whenever you make your passion a career, it's going to be all like rainbows and sunshine, and like it's not going to be that. Because when you start working like for other people, even if it's like a small business, like you're still working for other people, and it's no longer really yours anymore. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
for them. So it kind of takes away that kind of like personal passion where it's like, well, now I got deadlines, I got a budget, I got to make sure I get paid and all these things. So I think people need to be aware of that. Like I make videos now full time for like this landscape company, and it's fine and it's cool, but like, it's not mine, it's theirs. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not really my thing. I mean, I can do it and I like making the stuff, but it's not me, right? So I think people need to, I think that's why it's important to make stuff for yourself too, because it kind of keeps that spark alive and you're not going to like hate picking up the camera, right?
Yeah, no, I completely
Yeah.
agree, and that was the part I like lacked in, was
Yeah.
I didn't feel this as much up until recently, because I was still creating for myself. So it's like, even if, okay, we've got a client job and there's deadlines and it's a pain in the ass and it was a
Yeah.
boring job, or the client
Yeah.
was a
Exactly.
miserable person to work with, or whatever the case, it's like that doesn't
Yeah.
matter, because after all that's done, I went out and recorded a vlog that I didn't care if
Yeah.
it got 10 views or
Doesn't matter.
not.
You just
It's
feel better about it. You just feel better after. It's like therapy, right?
right.
It's like
Honestly,
it's
it
like
really
therapy.
is like
Go out and make something for you. You don't have to like get it approved. No, just this is for me now, right? So
yeah, no, it's
you feel
exactly what
better.
it is.
I that's why I make all kinds of silly stuff, because like honestly, if I don't make the silly stuff, I'm not gonna make like the bigger things. Like I just need to keep making, just to kind of keep the process going for myself. Otherwise, it's gonna be 6 months. I'm not gonna be making anything. So for me, that's kind of how I work. Is like I actually like making the silly stuff that gets no views, because it's like I'm actually glad I did that, because it's for me.
Yep.
Like it's like I can relate to that, because I'm looking back at stuff that I've done, like even like during the pandemic. It's like, man, like I'm really glad I did that, because I kind of like saw like what I was going through at that time. It's like, yeah, that's cool. Like it just kind of brings back this like these memories of like how far you've come, right? And it's all part of like documenting like yourself,
Yeah. And
right?
actually,
It's
it's interesting
cool.
you say that, because part of what like reinvigorated me recently was
Yeah,
watching back through my old stuff. And I went
I
through
love
this
it.
like very quick fit like sequence of being like super down and sad that I wasn't
Yeah,
doing that, and then quickly being like, but wait, what
yeah,
stopped me from doing that? It
yeah,
was actually asking myself that question. I was like, what is stopping me? And I think one of the biggest things, I'd be curious to see if you can
yeah,
relate to this, especially because you do also do work professionally in this
yeah,
area, which is that, like a month and a half ago, I think I got a C70. So I've got like a cinema
yeah,
camera. I've got all these lenses. My
yeah,
R5 had my grip and a grip, the cage on it,
yeah.
for almost since I got it. And I'm like, every time I would think I want to create, I would be like, oh, but I got to bring this, I got to pack that, I got this.
Mm-hmm,
And then I
mm-hmm.
started realizing that is the complete opposite of what made me want to create in the first place. It was simply just
Yes,
camera, lens, microphone. And I had not done that in a long time. So I took my
yes.
R5 out of the cage. I took the grip off of it. I'll put the grip on if I'm doing a photo shoot or something, but I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
camera, lens, microphone, and then, my little handheld tripod. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'm good to go. And I've recorded myself more in the last week than the entire year up until now.
Is that amazing? Is that amazing? Like, you don't always need like the fanciest gear to make stuff.
Yeah.
It's
And
amazing,
it's
right?
tough. It's tough when you have access to all that stuff, because you're like, oh, well,
Yeah,
I've got lights and audio and this and that. But then I'm
yeah,
like, but when I got into it, I didn't have any of that. And that was like what made it fun, And I always tell people, I'm
yeah.
like, if you couldn't create something fun or interesting off an iPhone, you wouldn't be able to make it off an Arri
No,
Alexa. So
no,
it's like,
no. No,
The gear,
that's
like it's like the whole does gear matter, conundrum.
yeah. I mean, gear matters for like whatever it is that you're doing, but I mean, at the same time, if you're making stuff for yourself, it doesn't really matter because you can just use your phone, right? Like if you're
Yep.
making like a commercial for whatever Porsche, yeah, gear matters, but um, it just depends on what you're trying to do and what you're trying to get across too, right? Because again, like the saying, like less is more is so true. Like just limit your options,
Yep. And it's funny
right?
actually because back in February, B&H was doing the depth of field event in
Yeah,
the city,
yeah.
and uh, my buddy and I went down there, and specifically for that event, I was like, we never really film, even for the company, we don't really film ourselves. We don't really cover anything except for the stuff we're actually shooting. So I went
Mm-hmm,
to Best Buy and I grabbed a DJI Osmo gimbal,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and I had my camera with me, but I was only using it to do. They had like different booths set up. It was a
Yeah,
really, really, really dope event, by the way. They had
yeah,
different booths like preset with like professional models and stuff, and
yeah.
anyone could just pull up and take photos. So I kept my camera reserved for that. And I was like, what? I'm just gonna throw my phone in the phone gimbal. And that
Hmm.
was the most fun I have had recording this
Yeah.
entire
Is that amazing?
just the phone.
Is it just like it's just yeah, I think people we all like gear. I mean, we all like toys, but at the same time, like don't let it stop you from making stuff, right? Because there's always gonna be an excuse. Gear, weather, whatever, like there's always gonna be something to like stop you. So I think if you're able to kind of like able to push through that and just say, no, I'm just gonna make whatever it is I have on me. And because people ask me, Paul, like what camera should I buy? Well, whatever's on you. It's like, oh, my phone. I'm like, well, just use that, I guess, and just see what happens, right? Because
Yep.
especially when you're starting out, you may find out that you actually don't like photography. You may actually find out you don't like doing video. So just start and just see if you actually like it. Like, do you
Yeah,
even like doing
that's
it? Like, you
that's
may
a
not
good
even like
piece of
it.
advice.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you spend $5,000 a gear. It's like, well, I gotta sell everything now because I actually hate this.
Yeah. But
Not a good situation to be in. But
it's funny because I'm like, I think one thing that as creators that we don't ask ourselves enough is like what
no.
actually is the thing that's stopping us when we're not creating, because
Mhm.
it's not always the same thing. Like there's been times before where it, like you said, it could be like, it could be like a weather thing, or it could be like a physical issue, like you're injured or you're
Yeah,
hurt, or it could just
yeah,
be you're dealing with, you don't have enough time, whatever the case is. But I think if we can figure out what's stopping us, we can figure out ways around that thing. Like I genuinely believe almost all the
yeah,
things that we could come up with that are things that are holding us back are also things we can move around. So like I said, for
yeah,
me, it was like,
yeah,
my mental health, and it was like I'm just not
yeah,
doing it. And so for me, mine was the classic just to do it, which as we said off camera before is like easier
yeah.
said than done. But then you
It
do it, and
is.
then you're like, oh, okay, this is not that bad. And then
Yeah.
you just keep doing it, and all of a sudden you're back on track again.
Yeah, well, you just make it a habit. You make it a discipline, right? Because you need to kind of because
Hmm.
when for me, like when no one's watching, when no one cares, it's like you need to find a way to like do it and care about it and just kind of like want to do it because otherwise it's going to become like a job and a chore, and then eventually you're just not going to do it. So I think for me, it's like you just need to just have a system in place that enables you to. We were just talking offline about the pandemic, about like during the pandemic, it's like we can't go anywhere, we can't meet anyone. Like, what am I going to do? So I made all kinds of silly stuff like in my home because I have to.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I'm just going to lose it. I'm going to lose the thing. So I had to just find ways to make stuff, even if it's just like freaking talking about food in my kitchen. Okay, I guess we're doing that today. So, the pandemic was good because it made everyone on the same level. Like everyone's at
Yep.
home, now make something. And I think that's what separates a lot of people is like, can you make something without going anywhere, without talking to anybody? You're just in your home. You got to figure out a way, right? So,
Right. Yeah. And It's
you know,
it's funny actually because I think like this might not be as hot of a take at this point, but
yeah,
I was saying to you before, like obviously excluding the terrible aspects of it. I'm like by
of
and
course.
large, my personal experience through the pandemic it was incredibly beneficial to me because
Yeah,
I'm a person who's going 100 miles an hour all the time, and I have an
yeah,
extremely active social life and all these things, and it just kept me home. But for me, for a lot of people that was the worst thing, and for a lot of
yeah,
people it was the best thing, and for me it was the latter because I'm like, okay, like you just mentioned, I'm one of those people where I'm like, okay, under the circumstances where it should be the hardest to make something interesting,
yeah,
that's when it's the most fun for me because I'm like, oh, this
yeah,
is challenging. I literally only have my phone in
yeah.
my apartment, and so what I did, and I still have all these videos, and I'll
I love
never
it.
ever get rid of them. I have so many
Love it.
videos of just me filming like my bottle of Jack Daniels or like my
Yeah.
Xbox controller or
Mhm.
whatever. I'm like, oh, there's an object in my house. How can I make it fun and interesting? And I actually did that the other night. I made like a tea. I called it tea roll. I was making a cup of tea, and I just uploaded like a quick, sequence. Everybody loves the
Yeah.
coffee and tea
Yep.
B-roll
B-roll stuff.
sequences.
Yeah.
So, but I'm like,
That's
it's
what it
just
is.
fun.
That's
It
what
was
it
just
is.
fun.
It forces you to it forces you to think outside the box, and it makes you pay attention more to like what's around you, right?
Yeah.
Like it makes you pay attention, like what's around you. What can I make here? What can I use? What can I add? Like it makes you really think sometimes, instead of just kind of like running around with a camera down the street, which is fine. But at the same time, it's like, can you make something with less? Less gear, less stuff. I mean, that's, it's a talent. It's a talent, because not everyone can do that, right? Like not everyone can push themselves to that limit. It's like, where can I make something out of nothing, kind of thing. And
Right.
that to me is cool. Like that's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. And it's, the other thing that happened so much during the pandemic, and it's continued to happen after the fact in
Yeah.
person, but it was, I met so many more, you're part of this group. I met so many more people
Yeah.
from different areas of the world because of the YouTube groups. Like I started joining these
Yeah.
YouTube Facebook groups, which is where you and I connected.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, there's all these people. And it was cool, because it was like, you find someone who cares how many views they're getting? Who cares what their quality is? It doesn't matter. You got a cool, fun idea. Let's do it. And it was like, I was collaborating with people. I was meeting all different, sorts of people and stuff like that. And I'm like, this YouTube stuff is like really cool. I wish, and I've told so many people, I'm like, even if you only upload for yourself and you don't ever want people to watch, I'm like, making YouTube videos is therapeutic. It's fun as hell.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's like an experience that you can reserve it just for yourself or share it with the world and everything in between. And I think that's what's so cool about it. There's stuff that I've recorded where I've never uploaded it and I just watch it back myself. There's stuff like this where I'm like, who wants to come watch? Who wants to check it out? Who wants to be involved? And so it's like, I don't know. I think content creation is just something that we all want to do. I think a lot of people are like, I've seen so many people say, hey, I want to, make TikToks or YouTubes or whatever. And one of the things you were talking about, I'm curious of what you typically will tell people is like, because people ask me all the time as well, like, well, what do I do for audio or what camera? And I'm like, if you got a phone, which we all do, I'm like, press record and just go do something. You know what I mean?
Record. That's it, man. That's all you got to do, because whenever you press record, things happen. Like things will happen if you're there long enough. Like something's gonna happen where you're able to like craft something out of it. When you don't press record, that's when nothing happens. Then you just then you just have crickets, right? Like, I don't know. To me, it's like you just need to put yourself in the position to make something, and then once the camera's rolling, see what happens. Because there's no pressure. Like it doesn't matter if anything happens. Like there's like no one's watching. Like it's not like you're on live television. Like you just, okay, well, we'll see what's up today. I think that's when, back in when there's more people daily vlogging, when like daily vloggers, first of all, I don't know how they do it, and B, it's like, okay, well, we're gonna make me go to like the grocery store, okay, let's make that interesting. But the way that you're able to like edit the trip to the grocery store to make it interesting, hey, that's talent, like that's skill. Like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm like, people will watch. I know it because
I'm
one of the people.
Yeah, like
I'm watching stuff like that all the time.
That's what I mean, right? Like, I mean, you're able to. I think we're all guilty of this. Like, my life isn't that interesting enough to like make a daily vlog, but I think people will like relate to people. Like, it doesn't matter how big like the audience. I think we all want Casey Neistat number, which is just natural. But I mean, to like take it down a notch, like there's going to be someone that relates to you. Like it could be one person, but if you're talking about something, if you're going somewhere, if you're doing something, there's probably going to be one person that like relates to that somehow, some way. Like it's like a human nature, right? So I think what stops a lot of people from making content is just the fact that people won't like it, people will think I'm weird, or people won't understand what I'm doing. It's like, but we're also thinking from that angle of, oh, probably like 100,000 people are going to watch this, which is like not the case. You got to like make it realistic. Say, okay, well, maybe 50 people are going to watch this. Out of the 50 people, maybe 10 people will like relate, right? Like think of it that way. And then if you have 10 people that relate, that's cool. Right. Because now you've built an audience of 10 people.
Yeah. It's funny too, because I'm like, I always tell people, I'm like, I think the thing is when you have an audience, once you have people watching, they want to see, whatever it is that you're going to do. They're watching you ideally for you. And
Think about
it's
it.
funny because when I think about like, the numbers and stuff, I'm like, I've had some videos, like some TikTok videos, Instagram videos that have gone viral. And when I think about the most memorable experiences for me as a creator, it's the moments where one person messaged me and said,
Yeah.
"Hey, I saw your video and it cheered me up," or "Hey, I saw
Yes,
your video and it
of
made me want to
course.
go out and
Of
vlog," as
course.
opposed to the video that got 100,000,
Yeah.
views or likes or whatever. That, like, that's cool too. But I'm like, I care more about knowing I impacted someone, and it doesn't always show up in a number. A lot of times,
No.
there's been so many people who have personally, said to me like, "Hey, I saw this or I thought that," and I'm like, I didn't know you were watching, because you're
Yeah.
not a person who turns up in the likes and the comments a
Yeah.
lot. But
Yeah.
and you hope that people engage, but at the same time, it's like, that just goes to show that these, we get caught up in these numbers and these metrics, but in reality, it's like it's going better than we probably think it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you just never know who's watching, right? You never know who is watching, and the people that watch may never ever comment, but you may
Right.
have helped that person. Like you just really never really know who's watching. And you just got to remind yourself that there's people behind the numbers, right? So you need to understand that, for me, it's like whenever people watch my video, it's like, man, you actually watched that thing? It's like, okay, cool. You
Right.
actually liked it? That's cool. And it's like, well, okay, you took away something from it. That's cool. Like you said, like the one person that comments and said that you helped me. Yeah, it's a really good feeling, right?
Yep.
It's
Yeah. So
it's like
that's been the
a
coolest part, I think, is like it's just helping us connect. And again, like the relatability. I mean, with the internet, you can find, I mean, people are doing everything in the internet. I recently
yeah,
just met someone who's like a knitter who
yeah.
has like 100,000 followers. And
What I
to me,
mean,
I'm like, I'm knitting. I'm like, that's great. You do that. That's boring as hell to me. But I'm like,
yeah,
but there's people out there who are interested in something, and it helps connect us. And like, just to
yeah,
go back to the whole pandemic thing, like I think that was a
yeah,
part of it, because we could not connect in person. So for me during the pandemic, what content creation meant was two big things, which was connecting in a different way, but still being able to be connected, at a point in time where it was unsafe for us to do so
yeah,
how we traditionally would.
yeah,
And then also it was like, there was nothing else to do besides be outside. Like being outside and away from people and away from public places was
yeah,
essentially the only thing we were allowed to
yeah,
safely do. So for me, I'm like, when I look at all my videos that I uploaded during the pandemic, it's me at like the mall parking lot, which is dead, or
hmm,
me at like some random baseball field, or like in a yard, or on a cliff somewhere, or something like
yeah,
that. And I'm like, that was when I was having the most fun. And so now I'm like trying to figure out how to get back to that point in time, like how
yeah,
it was before.
yeah. Exactly. Just kind of like bring it back. I mean, yeah, it's interesting because I mean, I think people want to be validated. Like, I mean, obviously we all want to be validated, but I think, whenever you do it for yourself first, then at least you've kind of protected that space a little bit, because whenever you upload something, you have no control over it. So I always tell people, like, just do it for yourself and just see what happens, right? Because I think people will relate to people being authentic, and I think people will know when people aren't being authentic. And even if the audience is only 10 people, hey, you never know, where those 10 people are going to go. They may tell other people. Like, to me, it's like a organic growth if you're able to like grow
Yep.
something, right? Because I think sometimes we think that it just happens overnight. Like the biggest podcasters in the world, the biggest YouTube people, or the biggest people that make anything. It's like, well, they've been doing it for 10 years, right? Like, I watch a lot of people like Roberto Blake, and he's crunching
Hmm.
the stats and the numbers. Like, this is how many videos people have done until they've actually like broken through and all these things. And people have made 1,000 videos before they even got monetized. So you never know what's involved until you start doing it. That's why you have to do it for yourself. Otherwise, you're just gonna quit.
I think that is the most, like, if there would be one thing I would want people to take away from this,
Yeah,
it's exactly that. It's that, like, if your primary reason for doing really anything is because you enjoy it, or you're doing it for
yeah,
yourself, the other things are like bonuses. Whereas I used to view it as the other way around, where it was like, okay, cool, this is now like, I want to do this full time. I want to do this as a business, and also if I
yeah,
can have some fun doing it, that's a bonus. Whereas now I'm like, no, no, no. If I do this and I don't make $1 and I don't get a single view, but I have fun, that's the primary reason. And
yeah,
then when you do it for that reason, it's easier to stay motivated, because you don't there's not really a cost with it. Like, the cost
no,
of trying to do it for a business or for the
yeah,
numbers is that you have to meet these certain goals, whether it's enough
of
money to
course,
pay your bills or enough
yeah,
views to stay monetized or whatever it
yeah,
is. If you're just doing it for fun, like you just mentioned a few minutes ago, it's like there's not that expectation. It's just
Yeah,
simply you're just doing
there's
it
no
and there's
pressure.
nothing expected of it.
There's no pressure. Like I don't know, like if you go big on YouTube, then all of a sudden, like those views, like your videos, have a lot of pressure on them all of a sudden,
Yep.
right? Like a lot of pressure. It's got has to perform, it has to have the views, has to have the watch time, because otherwise you're not getting paid, right? Like I
Yep.
just watched a video from I'm not sure if you know Chris Ramsey. He's
Yep.
in Montreal. He put a video like a couple months ago, basically saying like his video. I mean, he's a big YouTuber. He's got like I don't know how many, like over like a few million subscribers. He's basically saying that his videos weren't getting the views, which means that he can't pay his staff. Like imagine the pressure on that. Like how is that fun anymore?
Right.
Like how is
Right.
that fun? Like he looked miserable, miserable. So
Right.
man, it's like, dude, like for me, it's like, do I even want to get there? It's like maybe just keep it small and keep having fun. Otherwise, like you're just gonna be constantly watching like the stats on the video. It's like, oh my god, man.
Yeah.
Oh
That
my
and that is I think that's an interesting thing because I've also started asking myself like what, like do I actually want to ultimately before I used to think, oh man, if we've got this production company now and like
Yeah,
eventually we're gonna have our own warehouse, we'll have a team of people, da, da, da.
yeah,
And that all sounds great in theory, but like you just said, I'm like the pressure. I mean, we haven't
pressure.
paid ourselves yet because
Yeah,
and we're fortunate. And I think that's the reason we've grown so much because we both have full-time jobs that are flexible. They pay
yeah,
us well enough to
yeah,
live off of and stuff like that. And so when we do it, it's like we only need to make enough money to pay our
yeah,
studio rent, basically. And
yeah,
anything beyond that is just we can, buy some gear
yeah,
to play with. But
sure.
when I think about like, well, what if we had 3 or 5 or 10 employees and now all of a sudden we're responsible for
Yeah,
feeding people's families, the
yes,
pressure of like right now, the reality is right now, the absolute worst case scenario is like
yeah,
if neither one of us ever wanted to do another job again, then like we'd have to pony up our rent for the next year on
yeah,
ourselves and we would
yeah,
split it. And like, okay, that
yeah,
kind of sucks, but like doable. If you've
yeah,
got a team of people or a staff of people, whether you're a
yeah,
production company, a YouTuber, or whatever it is,
yeah.
it's like you can't. It's because it's not just about you anymore. And
No,
you
it's not
like,
about you. I
if you
know.
wanted to just give up or pack it in or just change
Can't.
careers or whatever, that's a way bigger. That's a way
It's an
taller
issue.
order
It's an
now.
issue. Yeah, I don't know. It just becomes different. Like it just becomes different, right? So, um, yeah, I don't know. Like whenever it gets to that level, it's like, well, just be careful. Like what you wish for, because the grass isn't always greener. Do you want to shut out your production company? Like what's
Yeah,
your
we
production
are.
company?
It's
Like what are you guys
called
doing?
It's called Hudson Valley Visuals. We
Yeah. Okay.
do I mean, we do like a lot of what we do is like event stuff. We now have like a podcasting space in our studio.
Okay.
But I was having a conversation with him and we were both like just reflecting a lot. I'm like, when we
Yeah.
first came together, we weren't even a production company. We were just like we literally started as an organization for creatives who
Yeah.
could just like come together and hang out and do stuff. And then we
Mm,
found like a little studio space that popped up and we are like, okay, well, we should split. And then we're like, well, let's just LLC, make it easier, so that if
okay.
we're getting jobs and stuff like that, we can pay for the studio rent and not have to come out of
Yeah.
pocket. And then it just like kind of took off, which again is
Good.
great. But I'm also like, we've had it's almost like the further down the line we've gone, we've had like less fun and done less stuff for us.
Yeah.
Whereas like
Of
early on,
course.
it was like, cool, we got a little play space and we can come here and
Yeah.
do a random shoot or play with this thing or
Yeah.
take a trip or whatever the case is. So I'm like, it's just weird. And he actually he had said from the very beginning, he's like, he never actually planned on wanting to ever ultimately do it full time. And
Mm,
I thought I wanted to, but then like the further we get in, we're like, oh hell yeah, we're gonna do this. And we were like, whoa, is this like actually what we want? Like, or do we want to just be able to make enough to like sustain the space and have some extra money and some
yeah.
gear and stuff, and we could just do it on our terms, like how we've been doing it. So I'm like, I've been really affected. I'm like, I don't think I ultimately want to be a person who like
Yeah.
runs a big like 10-person plus
Yeah.
production company team where I'm like, if I'm not feeling it anymore, then that means employees are not putting food in their table and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I've been reflecting on
Yeah.
that a lot lately.
Yeah. So what do you guys do? Who do you guys work for? Like what are your clients like?
We've done a lot of event stuff. So it could
Yeah.
be like community organizations or
Cool.
like businesses and stuff like that. We've done a couple of weddings, which we absolutely hate.
You didn't like it? How
I will
come?
say,
Why?
I will say, wedding video is not that
Yeah.
bad.
No.
Wedding photo was, for
Yeah.
me at least, was miserable. I'm
Not
also
your
like
thing.
not super big into like traditional like American wedding culture either,
Yeah.
because a lot of times it's like over the top and it's just stressful and stuff. But when we did the when we did the video, it was so cool because we just found the photographers and we're like, hey, we're going to stay out of your way. We'll be behind you. We'll be right on your tail all day. You lead the way. And it was literally just like, follow the photographer's lead. When you're the photographer, you're like low key keeping the whole damn wedding moving because you're like, we got to be here. We got photos to do there. We got this. We got that. We got, and it's like way more stressful. Plus with video, you know, you press record, you're less likely to miss something than if you're snapping photos and you don't, you know, you don't snap it quickly enough or something like that. So wedding photo.
No weddings. No more weddings for you guys.
We have one more scheduled because they already made the deposit from last year. But after that, we're probably like, we're chilling.
So don't contact.
We've done like, no weddings. We have a wedding tab on the website, I think, and we're going to remove that if we have weddings. So no more weddings, but other stuff we're still interested in. We have the cool thing is JP, who's my partner, he basically like built us out a really sick podcasting space. And that I think is the thing we're going to start to lean into a little bit more, especially because like, you know, it's something that we can ultimately also train somebody else on how to operate. And then we don't even necessarily have to be the ones actually doing it. But it's cool because it's something a lot of people want to do. And the way that we do it right now is we have a setup. We've got a desk. We've got 4 chairs and 4 microphones. So up to 4 people can sit in there. We've got like a cool set. He put like a 3D design on the wall. We've got like color changing lights, all that good stuff.
Nice.
And then we use the 2 C70s as the side angles, and then we use an R5 as the main angle.
Yeah.
And then we record into a Blackmagic ATEM. Nice. And then we use a Rodecaster for the microphones. And what he does is usually when recording is happening, he's live cutting with the ATEM.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is you can take that ATEM file and bring it into DaVinci Resolve, and then you can go back and change where the cuts are. Plus, the ATEM will spit out files for you. And I mean, we use Atomoses to send the signal into the ATEM, but a lot of times, and we'll record into the Atomos because then you're obviously getting way higher quality video, but a lot of times the 1080p video that the ATEM just spits out for you looks like really good. I mean, we have a client, we have a law firm that comes in to do like a podcast like once a month, and every time when I make their clips, I just edit right off of the ATEM files.
Cool.
So that type of stuff's not too bad. And I think that's going to be more of like what we'll ultimately lean into, because the event stuff it's fun, but it's also like can be fatiguing. I mean, we're at events, it feels like between work and networking and stuff, like every other damn day it feels like.
It's a lot,
So I'm like, let me chill out from that's where I'm like finding myself missing the pandemic. I'm like, man, before events, I'll just go out and about, peruse around for the day, record some stuff, come home and relax. Just in those days.
Cool. So you guys are like renting out the podcast space then, eh? Is that what you guys are doing?
We haven't started it just yet, but we're basically going to start doing that. And essentially telling people like, you know, if you want to just come sit down, record, and have your live cut video handed right off to you right then and there, you're good to go. If you want like clips edited and stuff like that, you can also get that done.
So you guys have like packages for these people? Like
we haven't ironed out the details yet, but that's essentially what we're going to do. And it could be like on a per episode basis or like a 10 episode season package or something like that.
That's interesting.
So that's what we're kind of getting to. And we also, I do a podcast with a friend of mine as well. So we just do it there. So we're getting back into that as well. So just trying to find our way again.
Yeah. You just never know like who needs stuff sometimes until you ask. Like, you never know. Like for me, it's like during the pandemic, I just basically messaged a lot of small business people, like where I am. It's like, hey, do you want video? It's like, yeah, okay, let's talk. And then you never know. And you never know like what that turns into. And you never know who that person knows too. So you need to like be able to, again, like I said, you need to put yourself in like the position to like just be there and just say, hey, Paul's here. Like, do you need stuff? Okay, let's talk. So it can be so simple sometimes.
I think a lot of people don't have that approach. So they're like, a lot of people are like, because I've had people who've reached out to me who are on it, like start freelancing and stuff. And like, well, you know, what's your advice to that? And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm like early on, especially, you should probably be doing either some free or very cheap stuff, just simply to build a portfolio to get experience. And then again, like you keep referencing, there's less pressure. You know, if I say to a restaurant, hey, I want to make a commercial for you, you know, I'll do it for free if you'd let me use it for my portfolio. There's not that much pressure. If that restaurant gave you $1,500 to make that video and said, you know, our new menu launches next week and we need this video, that's a different ballgame.
It becomes different. Yeah, like you just, Yeah, like I don't think like whenever you do something for free, it's not really for free because you're getting something out of it. It's not monetary, but you're getting like the experience of it,
Right.
right? Like like I said at the start, like until you're driving the car, you don't really know how to drive. So you need to start driving the car and just see because especially when it comes to like content creation, whole bunch of things can happen that you had no idea. Mic fails, camera stops recording, whatever. Something's out of focus. Like you never really know what's gonna
Oh my
happen
god.
until
Yeah.
you're there, right? Like you just never. It's like oh sorry, the mic failed. Sorry about that. And when it's free, like it's not really as big as a deal. But at the same time, you're still getting the experience of having the mic fail on you. So next time when you're getting paid, you know to make sure you have your audio backed up.
Yep. It's
Because
it's funny you mentioned that actually, because and I'm curious what some of your like biggest blunders are, but I remember there were two different things that happened, and I feel like we've all experienced this because you just
yeah,
mentioned both of them.
yeah,
But there was one time I was doing, and this was just a podcast I was doing with people. So luckily it was, again, it was no money, but I had, invited somebody over and they came over and, that's still that person's time. So it's not just completely,
yeah,
invaluable.
exactly.
And I remember I'm recording and I didn't realize until after the fact that with about 20 minutes left, my memory card ran out of space. And, I had like,
Mm,
I'm recording it myself and I'm also
yeah,
part of the podcast. So I can't really
yeah,
monitor that. So I'm like, that sucked. But the
yes,
biggest
that
the
sucks.
biggest
Big.
mistake I made was it was and luckily they were friends of mine and they I had charged them I think $75 for like a video
Yeah,
they were making like some shirts and stuff. And I remember I recorded the video for them and I realized after the fact and I got lucky, but I didn't realize until after the fact. I'm like, I was in manual focus the whole time,
mm,
not realizing it. And
damn.
the only reason I got lucky was that it just so happened that throughout a lot of the video, my focus distance was set coincidentally to typically where I was standing
Right.
in
Yeah.
relation to them. But I'm
Yeah.
like, there were certain parts where I'm punching in or out when that's when you
Yeah.
can easily tell. I'm like, okay, clearly this thing is in manual focus. And then
Yes.
I'm just like, I like just like chalked it up to like a creative thing. I'm like, no, it's cooler when it's out of focus,
Yeah,
like
because that's what
in this
that's what
one
people
shot.
want. That's what people want these days. They want autofocus shots. Okay.
Right. So I'm like, yeah, it was only don't
Hey
worry, it's
man,
only 2 seconds.
you
Like,
never know. You never know. Like stuff happens. So like the more that you're able to like just have the experience and then knowing what to do next time, I think it really helps people. Like it just helps you be more confident in the situation because when you're there and you're with a client, you're the leader. They have no
mm-hmm.
idea what you're doing.
Yep. Yeah.
So you have to be confident there, right? You can't say I think or let me check. It's like no, like when you're getting paid, it's like you're the leader. Like you're there because you're the professional. So
Right.
like
Yeah.
to me, it's like I never say, "Oh, I don't know," or "Let me check." It's like, "I got it. I got it. Yes, I know exactly what I'm doing." Meanwhile, you've already had the experience of having like the mic fail, so you know exactly what to do. You just have your audio backed up. You make sure you have lots of space on your card. Like you just know all these little things that
Yep.
we're just thinking of like the home run final product. But to get to the home run final product, all these things have to happen, and they have to
Yep.
happen flawlessly.
Yeah. It's a
They
lot.
have
It's a
to.
lot. I
It's
think
a
people don't
lot. It's a
realize.
lot. Like we're all dependent on the gear. We're all dependent that things are gonna work, and the card's not gonna be corrupted. Like you never know, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. And I was I mean, that was back when I had the A7C. I was doing
yeah,
jobs. Granted, again, there was low level stuff, but I'm like, I was doing jobs and I had one card slot. I'm like, the thought of doing a paid job now with only one card slot, I wouldn't even dare,
you wouldn't even think about it.
not even think
There's
about
no
it.
chance. There's
I'm like,
no
I'm recording. I'm like, yeah, I got a card, I got redundancy on my card, and I got an
yeah,
Atomos with an SSD. I'm like, I got three
yeah,
recordings here. I'm not
exactly.
losing them.
Exactly. There's no chance, right? So again, there's no. I mean, whenever you do something for free, it's not really free because you're getting like just the experience of it, like how to deal with the client, how to send it, like just how to email it, like just etiquette with emailing, talking, all these things that go into like a business, even though you're not making money
Yep.
yet. Like it just like these, how to send invoices. Like you never know. You just have never know, and you never know what the person's gonna ask you. Because that
Yep.
person may say,
Yeah.
"Oh, how I got Jim down the street. He's gonna want something." Oh, okay, let's call Jim now.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I don't know. It happened to me a bunch of times where like I did this video for this like hair salon, and these four dudes knew like three other hair salons. Oh yeah,
Yep.
my friend's a barber, and this guy's a. So it turned out to like four videos for these people,
Yep.
because they had this like click, right? So
That's a good point.
just like start messaging people, like just, hey, I really like your Instagram. Curious if you need content, whatever. My name is Paul. I'm just going around the community and seeing if you need anything. And person says yes or no. That's like the worst that can happen.
And
If they
that's
say
it.
no, we're good. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
move on to the next.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Like,
actually
don't take it personal.
that's a really good point you bring up. Just when it comes to just collaboration in general, one of my biggest pet peeves, right, is when, and I'm sure you've probably had this happen as well, where it's like
Yeah.
someone will reach out and they'll say, hey, hey, Dev, I want to make a YouTube video. And it's like this big, ambitious idea and da da da. And I'm like, okay, cool. And they're like, yeah, but like, I kind of need you to film it. And also, do you have the people that could do it? And also, could you edit it? And also, and I'm like, okay, so
Yeah.
what am I getting out of this exactly? And again, it doesn't have to be money, but I'm like, I always tell people when you need someone for something, you approach them and start out by saying, this is what I can offer to you. And then say, this is what I need. So if I was going to reach out, and say like, hey, I like a restaurant, say, hey, I want to make you a commercial, instead of being like, oh, I need something for my portfolio. Hey, I want to make you a commercial. I want to make a good video for you. And in exchange, can you just let me use it in my reel or use it as promotional material or whatever? Or like when I was doing like content creation consistently, I would reach out to brands a lot, and I would reach out and say, hey, I've got good background in photo and video, so I can provide you high quality content in exchange for some product. And that's, to me, that's a good trade-off, because then the other thing is, now once I've worked with a couple brands, I can leverage that so that I've got 3 or 4 brand collaborations. So now when I reach out again, I'm like, hey, I've worked with these brands, and this is what I could do. This is what I charge.
Yeah.
Now this is what I charge after that. But early on, I'm like, what do I look like reaching out to, like, any of these companies and being like, hey, throw me $1,000 and send me some product and make you a video? They're like, why would we do that? Because I don't have the audience really to leverage initially. So I tell people, well, figure out what you have to leverage, or find something to leverage, and then you can use that. Because that's exactly what happened. I did that with some companies, and then all of a sudden they were like, people like, oh yeah, we'll send you stuff. Not to mention, like, let's say you do something for free for a company, and then you gain an audience. Now you've got that connection. So now you can revisit it and say, hey, well, I've got 50,000 people watching now, so I'm going to have to charge you. But let's not forget, we've got a relationship here. You know what I can do. You're more likely to land that.
Yeah, of course. I think when you're starting out, you need to make it about them.
Yeah,
it's not about you. They don't know about you. They don't care about you. It's like, Paul, who? Like, I don't know who you are. But if you make it about them, and you're gonna give something to them, then they'll listen to you, right? Like, you need to, I think because, like, in the end, people want to know what you're gonna do for them. Like, what can you do for me? Like, what do you, and then you just kind of outline, well, this is what I've done. This is what I can do. But like off the bat, like when you I want $1,000, like they're just gonna say, no thanks, we're good.
Yeah.
But if you say, I can do this for you, like, it's just the way that you outline what you're trying to do. It's not what you say. It's kind of how you say it.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like sales, man. Like, it's sales. It's sales 101. Like, in the end, people buy from people. So if they trust you, if they can relate to you, then they'll open up the dialogue. But if you come across like a sleazy car salesman, they'll just say, no thanks.
Yeah.
So, but that also takes practice too, and how to, like, talk to someone like that, because it's basically a cold call, right? It's a cold message, it's cold text, whatever that is. They don't know who you are. So, like,
that's part of that experience.
Make it about them. Make it about them. Like, this is what I can do for you. I like your Instagram. I feel like I can do this sort of thing for you. But you gotta do the research too. Like, what are they about? What's their, who are they? What do they do? Because you got to tailor to them. It can't be just like a blanket message on Instagram. Say, hey, my name's Devon. I'm gonna do stuff for you. It's like, what? No. You got to, like, make it like a pitch.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I would love to hear more, actually, because one thing I really appreciate about you is that you are always collaborating. And I know you mentioned that particularly in Toronto, that there's a lot of people out there, but I'm just curious, like, what has your experience been? Like, I know I just saw recently, was like maybe a week or two ago, you were at that one of the photo shoots that was set up,
the vision room.
And it seems like you're just always around somebody and doing something. So, like, what would you say is your experience with, like, collaboration, or like some of the pros and cons, or like what you've taken out of it, kind of?
So I would think with, like, if you want to, first of all, I think people will say yes more than no. I think for me, it's like, I would say 8 times out of 10, I think people will say yes. Right. So, And it all really started when I did like the YouTube documentary, right? Because I didn't expect so many people on that thing. I thought I would get
Yeah.
maybe 5 people, but there was over 20 people on that thing. I'm like, okay, so this is a thing. So that's where it kind of started from. It's like people will say yes because I think people want to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
People want to be seen and people want to be heard. And like we said offline, I think you have to provide people a platform, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you provide people a platform and they can be seen and they can be heard, I think people will start to pay attention to you, because right, it becomes about them. It's no longer about me. It becomes about them. It's like, okay, you're gonna come on the YouTube video, you're gonna talk about whatever, right? So that's where I kind of shifted my thinking. It's like it's no longer about me, Paul. It's more about the other person, right? So like when I started doing these collabs with other people, when I did that thing at the Vision Room photo shoot, everyone said yes to me. No one
Mm-hmm.
said no. Nobody said no to me. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a huge edit. I'm like, okay, look, let's get up, right? Because people want to be seen. There are fashion designers, there are models, there are all kinds of people, and they all want to come on and talk about what they do, right? So, and to me, like I said to you in Toronto, like there's so many people that just make stuff, and it's not even video. Like I did a collab last year with like a fashion designer. I did a collab last year with the Trips, who I'm doing like another collab, but they do like food reviews, and they're a bigger channel than me, but they
Mm-hmm.
still want to do the collab because they want to be seen and they want to be heard, right? So it's not really about the audience; it's more about like just like I don't know. I don't know. There's a feeling when you're able to connect with people live and just like talk about what you do. I think it's a good feeling for people, right? Because it's so easy to get lost in like you're scrolling whatever social media platform out there. You're just scrolling. You're not even really paying attention to like what you're even looking at. So I think for the people that I've collabed with, it just provides that kind of time frame of like just being able to like, okay, this is like kind of like my time to like do my thing,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm again, you're just giving them the space to do it. You know what I
That's a really
mean?
good
Like,
point. Yeah.
you just because like people that don't make YouTube videos, or they don't do podcasts, or they don't do whatever, it's like they don't have a space to do it. It's just them by themselves, right? And I think a lot of people are scared to start for whatever reason. Like we're all people. Like we all want to be liked and validated. And I think people don't start because I don't know. They just don't think that they're going to be heard and seen, or they're not going to be understood. I think is a big one, being like understood, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
man, I've talked to so many people on this podcast where it's like I had no idea that you were going through that. I had
Yep.
no idea that you were going. I had no idea you were going through. Like, zero idea. They come on publicly on the internet to talk about whatever they're going through. Wow,
Yeah.
wow,
That's a really good point,
crazy,
actually.
crazy,
Yeah.
man. It's like they come on, they talk about something so deep, man. I had no clue they were gonna say that. I'm like, I can't say anything. I had no idea, right? So you never know what people are going through. You just never know. Like people can put on a happy face and everything's great, blah blah blah, and then you put a podcast on, boom, things happen. It's like,
Yeah,
whoa,
that's so true.
you know
Yeah, I
what I
mean,
mean?
like you said, I think it's that providing the platform or the outlet. I think a lot of times people want to, like you said, most people want to talk about stuff.
They do.
They
They
want to
do.
express themselves, but they might not
Yeah.
know how. And for a lot of people, like I find myself actually needing to go back to doing it alone. But for a lot of people, it's quite the opposite. A lot of people are way more likely to do those things when someone else is involved in it. For me, I'm
I
like,
think
I'm
so.
always around people. So I need to go back to creating some stuff that's just me, myself, and I. But
Yeah.
most people, it's like, if you say, hey, everybody's got access to a phone, you could pick up your phone and record at any
Yeah.
time, and they'll do that to a certain extent. But I think when you get somebody else involved and it just becomes a conversation or a
Yeah.
hangout or sipping a cup of coffee or something like that, you start
Yeah.
to really get to know people.
Yeah. I think people don't want to press record themselves though. Right?
Excuse me. Yeah.
There's something scary about pressing record yourself,
Hmm.
right? But whenever you do it, it's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of like diving into like the deep end of the pool. When you go first, it becomes a little bit less scary, kind of thing. Like you go
Yep.
first, okay, okay. Now I can do it because you've done it,
Yeah.
kind of thing, right? Because we can all, yeah, like you said, we can all go on the phone, go on IG Live, and do whatever. Yeah, cool. But not everyone does that because they don't because it's it's scary. It's different. It's like it becomes I don't know. It just becomes something else. Whenever you tell someone to act natural when the camera's on, they never act natural.
Right.
because they see the red light.
Yep.
That red light makes everything different. But
Yep.
meanwhile, when like the red light was off, they were going boo, and then all of a sudden when the red
Yeah.
lights, it's like they're silence, can't even talk.
Yeah.
It's a
It's
human
such an
nature.
interesting concept, actually.
It's a human nature thing, man. It's a human nature thing all the time. Like red lights on, okay, talk. What are you gonna do? We've
But
all
you know, I think that's an interesting thing, and I think that you're also one of the people who just does this well, which is that like that's an inevitable thing. I mean, almost every time I've ever been around somebody with my camera, it's always, I hate being on camera. I don't want to be photographed. I don't want to be,
yeah,
this or that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I totally understand. And the fun and the challenge in that for me is like, okay, well, how can I make this person, the quieter you typically are, the more interested I'm going to be in
yeah,
talking with you, because
yeah,
if I can, especially when you're doing things like this or like a podcast, things that are specifically centered around just conversating, or even vlogging, when you're like just
yeah,
hanging around people and talking to a camera, whenever you're doing that, it's like, okay, you're not, we can't ignore it, right? It's right in our face. The
no,
red light is right there. But
yeah,
how can I engage with you in a way that it then disappears? You don't see that
yeah,
anymore. And you just see
yeah,
me, this person, and we're having this conversation.
yeah. It's
And then you're
tough.
starting to get like you said,
Tough.
I mean, there's people, I've had people who have like done a podcast with me who have said things and they're like, this is my first time saying this. Actually, I've never even told my best friends or my family, and I'm like,
Mm. I
oh,
know,
damn,
right?
okay.
I
And
know,
that these are
right?
people I might be meeting for the first time on
I
that
know,
day.
I know.
It's crazy.
I know. I think when you don't know someone, I think it becomes easier to like open up because you don't have that relationship with that person. And your dad, I don't know, you know, it's not really a therapy session, but I don't know, because they don't have that relationship, they feel that they can open up. It's a weird thing. I don't know. I'm not even sure how to explain it, but I don't know. Maybe they just need someone else to talk to, and it's not their family, it's not their friend. They just need someone different to talk to. Sometimes, maybe that could be
That's a
it. I have
great
no
point.
idea. I have no idea because whenever you're, your friends or your family, you have that connection. They may feel that they're going to be judged or misunderstood more because that person knows me. It's like, oh, I didn't
Right.
know that. Oh, I thought you were this. Like, okay, but when someone doesn't really know someone, then they feel they have more room to kind of like be themselves a little bit more. I don't know. I'm just kind of like spitballing now, but I think that might be it. It's like they may just need someone new to talk to.
Yeah. No,
That,
that's a really good
that
point.
could be it, right? I don't know. It's a weird.
And it's funny how my mind has like changed on that, because years ago, especially when I was younger and
Yeah,
more ignorant, I used to be one of those people like, oh, here's this person who, you meet them for the first time and they're just spatting out their life story, or like they're telling
yeah,
complete strangers. Then you
yeah,
realize it's like, okay, well, actually, maybe the reason they're doing that is because someone who doesn't know them, they don't have the fear of being
yeah. I think that could
judged,
be it.
on their
That might be
decisions or
it.
whatever.
That might be it. Whenever you're on an airplane and someone just keeps talking about their life, it's like, what is going on right now? That could
Right.
be it. You never know, right? Like you just never, yeah, man. You just never know what people are going through. Like it just, I don't know. It's crazy, man. It's just like, it's crazy. It's crazy. But that's why I do this show. That's why I make the videos. That's why I do, because it's for me first. But I know that there's someone there that kind of likes what I do and relates to it. And that's also kind of why I do it. It's like, well, I'll just do it for that person too. It's for me, but it's also for the other person because I know
Right.
that person watches. Right.
Yeah, and it's
So
just a cool experience, and I really appreciate you having me, man. Like I said, I was like, it was you were like the perfect place for me to jump back into,
yeah, man, you gotta,
collaborating, because I'm like, it
yeah,
was, again, I asked myself like, well, what are the barriers? Okay, well, there aren't a ton of people out here right now who want to record. Well, cool. I know somebody, in Toronto who can hop on and already has a
yeah.
whole thing set up. Like, that's
That's
great.
what I
Let's have a
mean.
conversation.
Like I said offline, this thing started in COVID, April of 2020, and then my friend Evan started it. He basically left. So I said, well, you know what? Because at the time, like the show was more about us and what we do as people that make stuff, which was fine. It
Hmm.
was, but we did that for like 18 months, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool just to get different people on and just talk about different things? So that's why I kept it going, because like I told you, it's like for me, I get stuck in my own head. But whenever you talk to someone that does something, you get to pick up
Hmm.
on stuff, different approach, different strategy, different way of doing things. It could be so simple as changing a word in an email. You just never know what people are gonna say. So I think, for me, the power of like this is just getting just different people on. Like you said, it could be someone knitting. You never know what that person is going to say to you.
Yep.
It could be life changing. You just never know, right? So I think, um that's just really the power of it, just getting people on to say, let's talk about whatever, right? I think, I think people like that. So I think people like hearing people's journeys and approaches and how people started and where they're going. And if you're making money, you're not making money, you don't want to make money. Like it's just there's different ways to like approach stuff, and there's no like right or wrong answer. Like there's no right
Right.
or wrong answer to this. Like
Yep.
we're just making stuff, we're putting stuff on the internet, and okay. Like there's
But it's
no
it's so nice to just be able to just do that again. I'm like,
like
you know,
it's just like
worrying about,
yeah,
oh,
like there's no right or wrong answer. Like I don't know. I'm reading the book right now by Rick Rubin, The Creative Act, and he has a lot of good points in that book, basically saying that you know if you're not making it for yourself, then it's not really art. Like it's just you're
mm-hmm.
making it for the audience, and he's saying the audience should come last, really, because
Yeah, that's a good point.
it's a really good book, man. Like he has some really good insights into just making things, and yeah, like the whole philosophical approach of just approaching art in general is pretty interesting. You never know. You never know where it's gonna go. Like you just never know, man. Like the internet's a vast place.
Yeah, that's part of the thing that excites me. I'm like, some people I
you know?
think get overwhelmed by not, and I used to be one of those people who was like,
Yeah.
I wanted my whole life to be mapped out. I wanted to have an itinerary wherever we go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now I'm one of those people who I'm like, my typical approach, whether I'm making something or I'm going somewhere, I'm like, I want to have like a loose plan and then
Yeah.
figure things out along the way. And I need both of those things to happen. I can't be doing, I
Yeah.
don't want to be just completely flying, playing it by ear, but I also don't want to be bullet pointing every little thing I'm doing. I want to be like, okay,
No.
here's a general idea. We'll get in there and then we figure it out. Especially creatively, I'm like, okay, for example, the other day I did some photos for a buddy of mine. He was like, hey, he's a DJ and he wanted some photos and he wanted them
Yeah.
particularly to be like this other thing he saw. So he sent me the picture and I was like, okay, they were kind of like not super long exposures where it was like, you do
Mhm.
like maybe like a quarter, a quarter flash and you snap the picture quick and you turn the camera. So you see this happen at
Yeah.
weddings a lot where like it'll be like the flash and then you get those light streaks, but the person
Right.
is still.
Right.
So I
Right.
was like, okay, cool, let's do that. And then we start shooting. I'm like, ooh, what if we put this light that way, or what if we
Yeah.
tried this, or what if you drew, your logo out real quick on like a 3-second exposure, and
Yeah.
I didn't have any of that planned. You figure that stuff out, and
Yeah.
that's the most exciting part of it for me. That's where
Yeah.
I'm having the most fun. So again, even if
Yeah.
it's like a vlog, and I'm like, okay, today I want to vlog about this thing. I don't know where I'm going to do it. I don't know who I'm going to do it with, but that's the point. And then let's go figure it out.
Well, I think you need to get space for like the ideas too.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get space for the ideas because, especially when you're doing a vlog, when you don't really have any control over what's going on around you. Like something may happen around you that you may want to vlog more, but maybe it's a stranger that comes up to you and you maybe have a 10-minute conversation with a stranger. Maybe that's the vlog. And
Yep.
before it wasn't. So I think it's important to get space to ideas. I'm like you. I never really have a plan. I have an idea of what I want to do, but I don't really have like a storyboard set up of like. Nah, I just like to rock and roll. Let's just see what happens, right? But that's
Yeah.
just me. That's just me.
That's what I
I don't
figured
know.
out the most, because I'm like, it's interesting because I'm also something I've always said about like the way that I operate,
Yeah,
whether I'm doing work for other people or myself, is that
yeah,
I am huge on environment. And so
mm,
a lot of times, like the things that I have around me play into everything I do. When I'm,
yeah,
whether I'm vlogging or I'm doing a photo shoot, I'm always like, okay, what are the objects around me? What is the atmosphere like? What are the different things that we can do? And those are
yeah,
things that until you're in that moment, you can go scope that stuff out ahead of time and that could be helpful. But for me, I'm like a lot of times in that moment. And there are times when I see a person's body language. I'm like, oh, well, this is how this would work really well now. Now that I'm seeing like what
yeah.
the kind of energy you brought in today,
Of
this would be the
course,
best way to go about this. And
of
there's no
course.
way you can predict something
You
like that,
can't. You can't predict someone's mood or body language or like what they're wearing. Even like you just don't really know, right? Like things happen,
Right.
and that's why it's not so formulaic. There is no like 1 + 1 = 2. Like you can do whatever you want to do if that's what you want to do, right? That's yeah. I'm in your boat, man. Just like let things fly and let's see where it goes, right? Because
Yeah.
and
So
like yeah,
basically,
this makes it fun. I just like it's not so like I don't know. It's not just so like in a textbook. Okay, this is what we're doing. Rule of thirds. Okay, go over here. Okay, cool. It's like
yeah, exactly. So that's
yeah,
that's where I'm at. And I'm like, you know what?
yeah,
It just feels good to be like, let's just go record something and like let's just
Yeah,
have some
man.
fun, like
Yeah, man.
it's raining out and I'm like, we bought the Insta360 the Go
Yeah.
cameras, and I'm
Yeah.
like, we haven't used them a ton, and I'm like, let me go throw it on my hat and go run around in the rain or something, just because I haven't really
Mm.
been able to use this camera in the rain before. Let's go see what it does. Like, why
Yeah.
not? For no
Yeah.
reason, let's just go do something.
Yeah. But you never know like what that idea is gonna lead to, right? Because like I said offline, it's like I think whenever you do like silly things, that's when you sometimes you get like really good ideas.
Yeah. Yep.
Like it just I don't know, it just because you're kind of given the space for it. Like you're not putting so much pressure on yourself to like, okay, I need a banger video idea right now. And then you're sitting there for half an hour, like nothing's happening. It's like, it's like it's like the videographer's version of like a writer's block. It's like, okay. But if you like write
So
like a
true.
sentence, it doesn't even have to make sense. You may get something out of it, right? So it's kind of like a similar approach of just like make something stupid and let's just see. Because you never know, really, sometimes.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
just never know.
Love that.
Yeah, it just I don't know. It just for me, it's like I don't put so much pressure on myself, right? Like it's just like, okay, well, I need a video idea. It's okay, well, what am I gonna do? I don't know. Let's go outside and talk about whatever random life stuff and we'll just see, right? But
That was literally my entire YouTube channel through the
yeah.
pandemic, was exactly
Yeah.
what you just described.
Yeah. But again, people are gonna relate to that, right?
Yeah, and that's also when I was the most consistent with it, was when it was just like, hey, cool idea, and it's
Yeah.
funny because what I realized through that experience was that like you can make anything like a vlog and make it cinematic and get cool
Sure.
B-roll shot. It doesn't have to be like there was
Yeah.
a video where I talked about like something about like being cheated on or something like that. I'm like, it's not even an experience I personally have, and I'm like, but it was
Yeah.
something a few people had been like coincidentally telling me about that week, and I'm like, here's my
Yeah.
thoughts on it. Let's go talk about it. Let's go sit by the river and shoot a cool time lapse or something, because why the hell not?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's only so much B-roll you can put in until you need to like be
Yeah,
able to like deliver a story or a message. Cause I don't know. Like otherwise the B-roll is meaninless.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, the whole point of the B-roll is to complement the A-roll.
yeah, like what are you actually trying to like, convey?
Yeah,
um yeah, man, it's just I don't know, like put more focus on like the story and like what you're trying to say. It could be like a breakup and everyone goes through that and it's like people have different experiences with it and then all of a sudden you have like an audience, right? And they're gonna want to watch next week and the following
yep,
week. They may tell their friends. Like it doesn't have to be so like you said, it doesn't have to be like a cinematic masterpiece. Like it's just like it's life, right? Like it's just go out there and do it. Again, you're in that respect, you're like giving people the platform to like talk about what they went through with their breakup.
yep,
You just gave them the
yeah,
platform. So it's
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah,
the same concept. You just need to give people here, comment on the YouTube. Okay. So yeah, like don't like my like advice for people is like don't put so much pressure on yourself to like have like, a Hollywood blockbuster on your hands. Just whatever you want to talk about that day. Maybe you want to talk about like how gas is expensive. Hey, we all
yeah,
know that. Everyone's gonna
yeah,
comment. And you never know where that video is gonna go, right? But to me, it's like just make sure that it's stuff that you want to talk about too. Like don't be pressured into
yes,
like talking about like what's in my camera bag version 6. Like, okay, cool. But like, like make sure it's stuff that you want to like talk about because I think people will see through it and see that, oh, this person just wants to do what's in my camera bag because they just want the views.
yeah. No,
I've done that,
authenticity
but
is
I've
everything.
done like I've done what's not in my camera. I did the opposite. I think it was during like pandemic. I did what's not in my camera bag just to like have fun with it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and that's a really
you
cool way
know?
to do something like that.
Yeah, like like I don't care. Like I don't care what gear you have. Can you like make something today? Okay, let's go do it. Like to me, it's like people don't know what you can do until you can do it. You may have like an Alexa, but until you actually make something with it, people have no idea what you do. Meanwhile,
Yep.
the person with the phone made something really cool. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
Like it's so subjective. Like okay, you have an Alexa, cool. Like, but make something with it.
Right. Yeah, or
Don't
make
talk
something
about it.
interesting with it. Yeah.
Don't talk about it. Do something with it. I think that's I don't know. People. I think some people don't have ideas, or they have the idea and they execute, but they don't share it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, it's like you need to be like why I mean you could make something and not share it, but like I think sharing is like the power of it too,
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
way.
It's the most fun part. And even if it's like just one person that's watching or
Yeah,
shared something or whatever, and it's like,
yeah,
and there's always gonna be more people than you think, you
always.
know.
always more people than you think. Like it's, yeah, I don't know. Like just people, I don't know. I've met a lot of people that have ideas here in Toronto, but I've never seen them make a video ever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, did you tell me like 3 months ago that you're gonna like do that thing? Like where was that thing, right? So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But I think that's YouTube calling. So
Yeah,
it's
it's about
it's
time to
our
clock back in.
it's our sponsorship money right now coming through. Yeah, I don't know if you're able to like execute on the idea. It's so hard to execute. So if you're able to execute, that's what separates a lot of people, right? Because to me, it's like there's
Everybody's
the
got
bucket.
ideas.
Everyone has ideas. Everybody's
Not
got
everybody
ideas.
executes.
But then when you separate the people that can like execute, and then you separate the people that execute and share, it becomes like a smaller pool of people.
Yep. But
You
that's
know?
exactly why there is still a chance for people to have
Yeah.
such big successes, because you think anyone could be making YouTube videos, but the reason that there's only X amount of people who are hitting certain milestones or having certain success or whatever the case is because they're the ones who are going out and they're executing and they're sticking with it and they're doing it for themselves and they're having fun and they're reaping the rewards.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know. I was thinking about that the other day. It's like I remember I talked to that person who's going to do something and never did it. I'm like, man, that's why like I always respect people that like do it. I'm like, good for you, bro. You did it. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah. That's so true.
Like I made like a short film.
Oh.
Back? Am I back?
Yeah, there you go.
Hello? Got it? Yeah, like I made this like short film with this like person during the pandemic, and he was like really into like short films, and now he hasn't made a short film in like 2 years. So I don't know what happened to this dude, but
I think that's the value also of keeping like other creators around you, and that's I think I'd been struggling with that as well, because like a lot of the people that initially that were like creating stuff with me or also creating stuff, they either went off and did other things or like we've fallen out of contact, whatever. And I'm like, that's why it's inspiring, because it also just keeps you motivated, and it's another level of like accountability. If I tell a person, hey, let's go out and make a video today, I'm way less likely to bail on it, because I don't want to devalue or waste their time or anything like that. Like if I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna go do something for myself, I'm really gonna be like, I'm not really feeling it. So I'm also like, I'm also having to now recommit to myself as well, though, because I still do want to be able to be like, this is only for me and it only involves me, but yet I don't want to let myself down either. I owe it to myself to be like, let's get off our ass and go do this video anyway. So
yeah, exactly. That's what it comes down to, right? So I mean, so simple yet it's so hard.
Yeah,
but well, man, we're up against the hour, so I don't want to give too much of your time. Maybe you want to leave with how can people reach you, contact you, find you on the internets?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty much everywhere. I think YouTube, Instagram, TikTok is just Unreal Devon Wood.
Yep.
And then the business is just Hudson Valley Visuals. So both pretty simple stuff.
All his links will be in the description of the video, Spotify, wherever this thing goes. And yeah, man, thanks for coming on. I think we should do this again.
Absolutely. Next time you'll just get a text from me and I'll be like, hey man, I'm out halfway to Toronto right now.
Yeah, we gotta. I can't wait. I can't wait to do a collab with you. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I can show you Toronto.
That's my favorite part. Real quick, I'm like, I love making friends with people in different places, so that when I go there, I know someone's connected locally. Because quite frankly, I don't want to go to new places for like the most touristy shit. I want to know like what do the locals think is like the best spot for this or the coolest place to do that, or like things that I can't find on TripAdvisor. So I will definitely be reaching out when I'm making.
That's gonna be a lot of fun, man. That's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait for that. And yeah, buddy, thanks again. Yeah, and thanks everyone for watching, listening, and go check out Devon. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, bro.